Hey kids, today's show is brought to you by the letter 4 and the number potato! I'm a stupid private.
Hiya, Elemental Kung Fu fan. The new season of Avatar, Legend of Korra begins soon, so I'm doing a retrospective of Season 1 to get ready. Before I start, this retrospective is spoiler-tastic, so if you want to avoid spoilers, I'll give you the short version of my opinion up front.
It's just precious you think anyone is interested in your opinion.
Legend of Korra is just as good as Last Airbender. I recommend it and recommend it highly. Because the show tells a continuous story, I'm not going to give an episode-by-episode review. Instead, I'll discuss the setting, characters, major events, and give my thoughts on the season. If you happen to be ignorant of the awesomeness that you've been missing, the world of Avatar is divided into 4 major groups of people who can telekinetically control one of the 4 classical elements, by way of some Tai Chi-esque movements. The world is protected by a chosen one called the Avatar, who can control all 4 elements, as well as the power to enter an overcharged state that allows him or her to totally pwn any would-be world conquerors. Once the Avatar eventually kicks the bucket, a new one is born in the Avatar reincarnation cycle. In the previous series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Avatar was the last remaining Airbender, a boy named Aang.
No matter what M. Night Shyamalan says.
Aang fought a 3-season-long war against the power-hungry Fire Lord. After a bunch of teenagers managed to overthrow the evil empire,
Like you do.
Aang and friends founded Republic City. Face-palmingly stupid name aside, Republic City was meant to be a place where all benders and non-benders could live and work together in peace.
Good luck with that.
After Aang eventually became one with the Force, a new Avatar was born, a waterbender girl named Korra. The setting for most of Season 1 is Republic City, and it's breathtaking. I made the comparison between Republic City and Rapture in a previous video, and I stand behind that statement. Republic City is a steampunk wonderland to rival even Rapture. From the pro-bending arena to Air Temple Island, I think it was a great idea to set the entire season there. It gives us a close and in-depth look at every aspect of the city. Now let's talk about our heroes, the new Team Avatar. Starting with Avatar Korra, obviously. When I look at Korra, I see what Darth Treya saw in Darth Revan. Raw power. Korra is an unstoppable bending force that can level anything.
Almost anything. There are dark powers in Republic City that can bring even the Avatar to her knees.
That's a good point. Powerhouse of elemental awesome that she is, Korra isn't invincible. Her difficulties with airbending are a good example. Korra struggles with some challenges, and the most moving scene in the entire season is when she cries after being ambushed by Amon. Korra may be brash, but she's not arrogant and she's not stupid. She knows exactly what Amon can do.
You mean take away her powers and leave her just like anyone else?
I was going to say defenseless. Korra really is a great hero, willing to take the fight to the bad guys by whatever means necessary, without being hard or calloused. She also has a great design, with her thicker arms and waist and a very prosaic dress style that makes her look like the warrior she is. Korra also has one of the best rides out there, Naga, the polar bear dog. Granted, Appa's kind of a hard act to follow, but Naga does it well. For the record, there is one specific scene where Korra drop-kicked any misgivings I had about her off a cliff.
The morning is evil.
It's so true.
Wuss.
Now for the next member of the team, Edward, I mean Mako. Yeah, I'm not terribly fond of this guy. And there's a specific scene where he really lost me.
What do you think of Korra in a girlfriend sort of way? She's great, but I think it makes more sense for me to go for Asami.
I would be more okay with it if Archie just couldn't make up his mind between the lovely Veronica and bad Betty. But he sat down, made a specific and calculated decision on which girl it would be most advantageous for him to date. Granted, he does eventually change his mind, but by that point, it just makes him look either indecisive or commitment shy. For me personally, the key to liking Mako is his relationship with his brother Bolin. There are a couple of scenes where he plays the protective older brother, like when he rescued Bolin from Amon, but this relationship is more tell than show. I'm guessing this is because of the 13-episode length of the season. I'm sure their relationship will be much more flushed out once Season 2 starts. Lastly, Mako is a skilled firebender, but he doesn't really have his own style or even his own signature move. Now on to Bolin. He's the other half of the orphaned, pro-bending bottom-feeder duo that is Mako and Bolin, and he's a lot of fun. He's the comedy relief guy. Think of him as the new Sokka. And like Season 1 Sokka from Last Airbender, Bolin suffers from competency issues. But that's made up for by his positive attitude and a metric ton of enthusiasm.
Spoken like someone not trusted with anything other than non-mission critical electronics repairs.
In the group, Bolin is the Earthbender. Kind of like his brother, he's just a garden variety Earthbender. He doesn't really have his own style or anything. But he does have hilarious eating animation. Well, it makes me laugh. The last member of Team Avatar is Asami. In addition to being the token non-bender, Asami also comes with a whole bunch of nifty accessories. Like cars, taser gauntlets, and mad kung fu skills.
Skills pay the bills.
No, that's what Daddy's for. Asami is also 1/3 of the love triangle of Mako, Korra, and Asami. This is pretty much where all Asami's screen time goes, which is a shame because I would have liked to have seen more interaction between her and Korra or Bolin. Now for the supporting cast, starting with Tenzin and family. This little nuclear family are the first in a new line of airbenders. The patriarch Tenzin is the only airbending master. Tenzin is also a straight pimp. A calm, controlled, zen-like pimp. Need proof?
You're officially the worst chief of police ever.
Calm down, Korra. I'll get this sorted out. We just need to be patient. But you really are the worst.
See? Pimp. He and Korra have a great relationship. It's a master-student relationship, but one where both sides learn from each other. You also feel that he really cares about Korra, almost like she's one of his daughters. This dynamic is present even when they're fighting. Tenzin is also an important politician in Republic City. I would describe him as a centrist, who tries to protect the interests of both benders and non-benders alike. His wife, Pema, is a wholesome, stabilizing presence, and the kids are comic relief. The second important supporting cast member is Lin Bei Fong. Chief of the RCPD, Lin is a bad metal bender, and the daughter of Toph.
Like mother, like daughter.
Lin is basically a character out of a Clint Eastwood movie, a hard-bitten, no-nonsense cop who can really do the damage. Lin also has some great hero moments, like when she went all Wolverine on a Big Daddy, or sacrificing herself to save Tenzin's family. Too bad there are a couple of things I don't like about her. Number one is the way she takes out her relationship frustrations with Tenzin out on Korra. The other is her decision to leave the police force to fight Amon. This doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, because with Councilman Tarlok's War on the Equalists in full swing, you'd think he'd give his Iron Woman carte blanche in the fight. Speaking of, it's villain time. Starting with Tarlok, of course. A politician who stinks to high heaven of ambition and cheap cologne.
So, a politician then.
I've heard him described as a combination of Azula and Long Fang. That's a good summary. Tarlok's a schemer who uses the fears of others to advance his own agenda. At one point he even had Korra dancing to his tune. But when push comes to shove, Tarlok can pull the strings in a different way. As a naturally gifted bloodbender, even the Avatar isn't safe. I thought Tarlok was a great antagonist, very different from your average thug or bruiser. My one complaint is, for a guy who's as clever as Tarlok obviously is, he sure got dumb. When Korra confronted him, she had nothing but bluster and empty threats. But Tarlok went and screwed it all up by throwing the first punch and revealing himself as a bloodbender. The next big bad is Hiroshi Sato, CEO of Future Industries and the inventor of the Sato-mobile. Ha!
Seriously, Private?
Well, it made me laugh. Hiroshi is Asami's dad, and his backstory is actually kinda sad. When Asami was a little kid, some bending-powered criminals broke into their house and killed Asami's mom. So you can really see when Amon shows up and says to Hiroshi, when people with powers you couldn't possibly match decided they wanted what you had. Where were the so-called benevolent bending authorities? Where was the Avatar? Nowhere. But work with me, and we'll make a better world for Asami. Together. Pretty much everything he did to protect her, and it just kills him to see her side with people that he sees as part of the problem. They pretty conclusively ended the relationship between Hiroshi and Asami, but I hope he returns in Season 2 because I think there's still a lot more there. Hiroshi also brings a lot to the Equalist table, things like planes, taser gauntlets, and big daddies. as well as the entire future industry's considerable pension fund.
His investors are in for a shock.
Now for Amon's right hand, the lieutenant. Honestly, I feel bad for this guy. He gets smacked around so often. The dude's got determination, if nothing else.
It's almost inspiring.
Almost.
It's a shame too, because I really like his fighting style. He's got some cool moves, and he really stands out from the other henchmen, because of his nifty outfit. Other than that, there's not much to the guy. Now for the mayor of the revolution himself, Amon. Or as I call him, the greatest villain the X-Men never fought. Amon is my favorite villain in the whole Avatar universe. He's got it all. A brilliant evil plan, an army of chi blockers, high-tech weapon systems, 10 pounds of charisma in a 5-pound bag, and bad powers that let him go toe-to-toe with the Avatar. His look is pretty cool, but maybe a little bit generic. He clearly shops at the same store as Darth Revan, Darth Nihilus, Jack of Blades, Azrael, Taskmaster, and Doctor Doom. Amon's smart and charismatic. He can command the loyalty of numerous followers and carry out an agenda of systematic attacks against the ruling class of Republic City. Like his father Yakone and brother Tarlok, Amon is a bloodbender. He also has the ability to take away a bender's powers permanently. It's possible he could be doing this using energy bending, but I don't like that theory. A chi blocker can temporarily disrupt a bender's powers. I think Amon is using bloodbending to block a bender's powers the same way, like how Aang couldn't enter the Avatar state after he was wounded by Azula. However he does it, Amon is an existential threat to the world of Avatar. And Korra in particular, who, for better or for worse, defines herself by her skills as a bender. Well, that's the major players out of the way. Now let's go over the events of Legend of Korra Season 1. The season starts with the discovery of the new Avatar by the White Lotus Society. An Avatar ID is fairly easy, though.
I'm the Avatar! You gotta deal with it!
Where's an old bag with a gingerbread house when you need one?
15 or 16 years later, the little tyke is finishing her firebending training. And just as airbending is about to begin, Tenzin, who is the world's only airbending master, has to stay in Republic City. Korra isn't about to take that lying down, so she stows away an outbound ship headed to Republic City. After a few, what's the word?
You mean shenanigans?
Yeah, picking fights, property damage, and getting arrested. Tenzin springs the young Avatar and lets her stay and train at his home on Air Temple Island. Unfortunately, mastering airbending is just a little bit harder than downing a couple of extra-large bean burritos.
I think I'm doing it wrong.
To blow off some steam, Korra tries her hand at the newest sport in town, pro bending, where she meets masters Mako and Bo Lin, two brothers at the bottom of the pro bending barrel. But with a little help from Korra, they start a winning streak. Tenzin isn't into it at first, but he comes around. Too bad pro bending ain't cheap. So Mako, Bolin, and Korra have to pony up the dough, or it's no finals for them. To earn some money, Bolin becomes an underworld enforcer, and Mako gets himself a sugar mama. Then Bolin falls into the clutches of an unfriendly dragon priest named Amon. So Korra and Mako need to go rescue him before he gets permanently debent. After their heroic rescue, local sleazy self-promoter Chickenhawk, Councilman Tarlok, recruits Korra for his anti-bending task force. Then, after a few raids, Korra just calls Amon out, pro-wrestling style.
What happened tonight was already written, Hulk Hogan. It was written along.
Amon answers by showing up fashionably late with a big group of friends to stomp Avatar face. Instead of just killing or depowering her, Amon makes some threats and then leaves.
First mistake.
To take her mind off almost receiving a fate worse than death, Korra refocuses on pro-bending. This is where she butts heads with a lesser antagonist named Tano. Think Draco Malfoy meets that one kid from Cobra Kai. During the pro-bending finale, which is under terrorist threat, Tano and his wolf bats beat Korra and the Fire Ferrets with some underhanded dirty tricks. Then Amon depowers him in front of a packed house.
That's unnecessary roughness, I believe.
Then he just plain blows up the stadium. This means Mako and Bolin need to move, their digs in the stadium having been exploded and all. So they move in with Mako's girlfriend, Asami.
First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes Mako with a baby carriage.
During a visit by Korra, the young Avatar overhears a suspicious conversation by Asami's dad, Hiroshi. Although this could have meant anything, Korra is 100% right about Hiroshi being an anti-bending zealot with an army of big daddies at his beck and call. Naturally, Asami decides to side with the guy she's known for less than a month over the man who raised her, thus completing the new Team Avatar. Meanwhile, Councilman Tarlok's gone mad with power.
Sir, I'm afraid you've gone mad with power.
Of course I have. You ever try going mad without power? It's boring. No one listens to you.
He has Korra's friends thrown in jail, and when she calls him out on his bull, he, kidnaps her and locks her in a steel box in his creepy cabin in the woods.
Na-na-ning, ning, 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 ning.
But it's okay, her friends figure out Tarlok's a bloodbender, and Charlie might get out to the cabin. Then Tarlok runs afoul of Amon, and is on the receiving end of the kidnapping for once. Amon enjoys beating up government officials so much. He's like, screw the terrorism, we taking this over.
Step forward those who would serve, for an army will be raised. The powerful will be ripped from their decadent nests.
This is when it gets awesome. The metal-bending cops get worked over with electric shocks and giant magnets. Then the lieutenant gets beaten up by little tiny baby airbenders. But Lin still needs to sacrifice herself to give Tenzin's family and the Avatar fan club a chance to escape. Then the good guys call in reinforcements from General Iroh's fleet. Who's General Iroh? He's Zuko if Daddy gave him a few more hugs and a few less third-degree burns. But his liberation of Republic City is less D-Day and more Waterloo. In the chaos, Mako and Korra find Tarlok, and he reveals that he and Amon are the sons of a notorious bloodbending criminal named Yakone who was defeated by Aang. If it became publicly known that Amon is actually a waterbender, he would lose all credibility. So having formulated a plan, Bolin, Asami, and Iroh head off to stop Hiroshi's hidden, evil airbase of planes.
You mean his hidden airbase?
Yeah, that. And they do. Well, Korra and Mako go to confront Amon. This goes less well. Korra gets her bending taken away, and just as Amon is about to do the same to Mako, Korra figures out airbending and blasts the rebel leader out a window. After his splash landing, Amon uses waterbending to jump onto a nearby dock, right in front of a huge crowd.
Last mistake.
Amon then runs off, grabs his little brother Tarlok, and while they're both on a boat, Tarlok uses one of those taser gauntlets to blow the boat up, presumably killing both of them. Sometime later, Korra is upset about the loss of her bending when Aang appears, to impart the knowledge of energy bending, restoring her powers and the Avatar state. This also lets Korra heal any of the people who got their bending taken away by Amon. Well... Now for my final thoughts. When comparing Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, I would say the highs are higher in Korra, but the lows are also lower. In Last Airbender, there was an excellent supporting cast, starting with Katara and Sokka. The supporting players then slowly expanded to eventually include Toph and Zuko. In Legend of Korra, I think they were trying to force 2 seasons of character development and plot into one short 13-episode season. The majority of problems I have with Legend have their root here. The lack of genuine connection between Mako and Bolin, the way Korra just lucked into Hiroshi's treachery and then, on the basis of incredibly flimsy evidence, was completely 100% right about him, even though we never had any reason to distrust him. That's almost as bad as little Annie accidentally blowing up the droid control ship in episode 1. Other things, though, can't be explained away with lack of development. Like when the Airbender kids defeated a group of equalist chi blockers. No fair resolving plot points with a joke, Legend of Korra. I know this is supposed to be funny, but you know what else would have been funny? If, in The Empire Strikes Back, when Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader were having their big old fight in Cloud City, if a big old cartoon safe just fell out of nowhere and hit the Dark Lord right on the head. I'd have laughed. The Chi Blockers defeated all the White Lotus guys on Air Temple Island. They were all benders, with way more training and experience than the Airbender kids. They also had the advantages of numbers and terrain. The only thing the Airbenders had was surprise. Now, I already mentioned it, but after Tarlok threw Mako, Bolin, and Asami in jail, and Korra went to confront him, what was her endgame? Oh right, she didn't have one. Just like always. Korra has no authority to remove Tarlok from power, and force wouldn't have helped. Not without resorting to out-and-out murder. Not very Avatar-like, is it? And if Korra was stupid enough to strike first, Tarlok could have had her arrested or banished from Republic City. He had nothing to lose and everything to gain from not fighting back. And he's smart enough to know that. You could argue that Tarlok has a temper, but I don't buy it. If he could control the impulse to turn Tenzin into a human pretzel every time one of his power plays got blocked, he could control his temper in the face of one angry teenager. The last thing that really bothered me about Legend was the ending. Everything I just said about Tarlok goes double for Amon. When Korra and Mako confronted him, he was at the height of his power. He could have had them hunted down and killed like wild dogs. But no, he decides to face them on his own. Then, when Korra airbends him out a window, he does the stupidest possible thing and waterbends in just the most obvious way. He could have just swam away and returned after Republic City was retaken, liberated his followers, and increased his reputation tenfold. The martyred hero of the revolution returns. But even after he revealed himself with his charisma, I think Amon could have still salvaged the situation. He could have said that bloodbending was the power the spirits gave him. I think a decent number of his followers would have bought it. Then, why would he bending block Tarlok just to bring him along on his escape? Does he still care about his little brother, or not? Is he a sociopath who tortures small animals, or is he the heroic protector of the common man who just went down a dark path? But the icing on the cake is the Deus Ex Machina they used to just nil all the sacrifices everybody made to try and stop the Equalist Revolution. Yeah, that great scene with Lin standing defiantly in front of Amon giving up her bending to protect Tenzin's family didn't mean a thing. And why didn't Korra just use the Avatar state when she was fighting Amon? Granted, Korra's not the most spiritual Avatar, but isn't the Avatar state a defense mechanism? This isn't like Last Airbender Season 3 where Aang actually loses the Avatar state. There's no reason I can think of that Korra couldn't just glow it up. But let's end on a happy note. The good in Legend of Korra is very, very good, starting with the fight scenes. They are the definition of awesome, with all bending styles on full and glorious display. With special mention going to the metal benders of Republic City, able to go from fighting like Whiplash to flying like Spider-Man in a split second. And even the non-benders get in on the action. In the world of Avatar, every random farmer and merchant can pull off some ridiculous wire foo. But it doesn't stop there. All kinds of cool steampunk weaponry shows up thanks to Hiroshi. It's way cool to see just how many nifty ways there are for metal benders to get messed up. Like with electric shocks and giant magnets.
Magnets? How the do they work?
The designs on just about everything are great. The cars, the motorcycles.
Someone's an Akira fan.
And the planes. But what Legend of Korra does better than almost anything else is the pacing. From the moment Korra arrives in Republic City, things just get worse and worse. Starting off small, the Equalist Revolution gets stronger and stronger until Republic City is a battlefield. This is done so well, I didn't want it to stop. I think they could have dragged out the battle between Tarlok and Amon into a multi-season arc. Well, I'd say that about sums up the first season of Legend of Korra. I have high hopes for Season 2, and will be reviewing every episode, so keep an eye out for those. Thanks for watching, I'm the Stupid Private.